what is the most valuable and highest paid work that you do? And the answer is thinking.
The ability to focus. Very important. The ability to focus, as we've said and we'll say over again, is the absolute critical requirement for success. People say, geez, I don't know if I can be as successful as other people are because they have more advantages and more benefits and more intelligence and so on. Don't you believe it. A person who is focused, of average intelligence, can run circles around a person who is a genius who doesn't have the focus. That is why people come out of the universities with PhD degrees and with master's degrees and with sometimes 5, 10, 15 years of advanced education, and they can barely make a living, and other people quit school in grade 10 and grade 11, and they come out of school and 5 or 10 years later they have their own successful businesses. It's not the basic talents, although talents are important and education is important. It's the ability to focus the talents that you have like an arrow, if you like a sniper, to be able to hit specific targets. And that's why you don't have to think of yourself in terms of limitations.
Focus is the key to your success. That's why I'm so concerned about I call it the attraction of distraction. It is so disturbing because it guarantees failure in life. You actually become addicted to distraction and you can't stop it. You're just like a dope addict. You've got to have your distraction. And if you're addicted to distraction, you can't focus. And if you can't focus, you haven't got a chance against someone who can. And so therefore, I'm hitting this a little bit hard, but I want you to think about it because most people slip into this attraction of distraction and we're not even aware of it. You haven't even really thought about how much time you spend during the day distracted. And the answer is about 80%. According to a recent report, every time that you respond to a new impulse and a new distraction, by the end of 2 or 3 hours, the brain is so flooded with dopamine that they're incapable of concentrating on anything. That it stimulates your mind so much that what happens, every stimulus triggers dopamine, and dopamine has the same effect as cocaine on your brain. It's a stimulus, and you get addicted to this dopamine stimulus, and you cannot not surround yourself with stimuli.
The technology is great. You know, it's lots of fun, very helpful, makes a lot of things easy. But like anything in the world, there is too much of a good thing. And I think one of the things we don't talk about is what is the balance of technology in our lives. And I would argue that for many of us, it's out of balance. In other words, it can be addictive if left unbalanced. A little alcohol is great. Too much alcohol, not so great. Gambling is fun. Too much gambling, really bad, right? Technology is wonderful. Too much technology can be very destructive and destroy our relationships, like all addictions destroy our relationships, right? And so one thing we're not considering is what is the right balance. If you wake up in the morning and you check your phone before you say good morning to your spouse, that's a problem. If you find yourself incapable of getting through a day without needing to check, that's a problem, right? Now, where it gets really dangerous is with kids, millennials. Some of them aren't kids anymore.
Right.
So almost all alcoholics on the planet discovered alcohol when they were children. Now, we have age restrictions on alcohol, cigarettes, and gambling, because we know that an immature mind is not yet strong enough or mature enough to deal with the powers of these addicting chemicals, these addictive chemicals, right? So we put an age limit. We have no such age limit or age restriction on social media or cell phones, right? And so what we have is an entire generation that's growing up addicted. Parents have to intervene. We have to stop giving our kids free access to social media and phones at young ages. They are not ready for it. Their minds cannot cope with the dopamine. Balance is fine. You can give a kid a phone, but they can't use it in their bedroom. They can't have it at the dinner table. They can't take it to school. They can only have it up to a certain hour, and you take it away. They're children. You can take the phone away. We've got to intervene as parents. But as companies, we now have to deal with the influx of kids that are coming into our companies with addiction. Watch, I see it all the time. Walk through any office. You'll see the older employees have their phones on the sides of their computers as they're working. You'll see the youngest employees have their phones face up in front of their keyboards between their arms as they're working. And this is how they work. And the science is alarming. They did experiments on mice. where they did the multitasking. They put flashing lights to mimic going from the computer to the cell phone, the computer to the cell phone to the TV. The mice that were exposed to the changing lights, it took them 3 times longer to solve a maze than the mice that weren't, and the damage was permanent. It didn't improve when they stopped the lights. That's a problem. That's an addiction. If you're sitting in a meeting with people you're supposed to be listening to and speaking, and you put your phone on the table, face up or face down, I don't care, that sends a subconscious message to the room that you're just not that important to me right now, right? That's what happens. And the fact that you cannot put it away is because you are addicted. I do this with my friends. When we're going out for dinner and we're leaving together, we'll leave our cell phones at home. Who are we calling? Maybe one of us will bring a phone in case we need to. But if you don't have the phone, you just kind of enjoy the world. And that's where ideas happen. The constant engagement is not where you have innovation and ideas. Ideas happen when our minds wander and we go, and you see something, I bet they could do that. That's called innovation, right? But we're taking away all those little moments.
You might want to write this down. The victim loves entertainment, the leader loves education. Your devices, your addiction to checking every WhatsApp that comes in, every notification from Facebook, every social media post is costing you fortunes of productivity, creativity, impact, and influence. Every genius has one thing in common: extended periods of time away from distraction and interruption. So when you get away from distraction and interruption and you focus on that one skill or that most important project, the neural pathway gets stronger and stronger. And the more you practice the skill, the more that neural pathway gets isolated. Now, when it gets isolated through deep practice every single day in an undistracted environment, oligodendrocytes get triggered and they release a fatty tissue called myelin. Myelin is thought to be, by many researchers and scientists on high performance, to be the secret of genius. Steve Jobs, I could see around corners. Messi, bend the ball like Beckham. These people were not naturally talented. They stripped away distraction. They developed a monomaniacal focus on mastery. They did it over an extended period of time. And what happened? Their brain kicked in to create a pharmacy of mastery that every single one of you in this room has. It has never been so easy to spend the best hours of your days chasing distractions. You want to be a great leader? Here's one line to think about. You can be distracted or you can get epic work done. You can't do both. You see, and if you want to have the results only 5% of the population has, you've got to be willing to think and behave like only 5% of the population. The victim is addicted to distraction. We live in a world that's so interesting right now. A lot of people are behaving in ways they see people on the social media behaving, even though that's not right for them. It's an incredible world right now. Most people on the planet today are followers. Most people don't think for themselves. They're brainwashed. They're hypnotized. They're plugged into the matrix. They're watching all the media, and they're being hypnotized and programmed into a way of living that I believe is heartbreak at the end. According to the latest research, on an average day, we're spending 2.1 hours a day in distraction. We are being interrupted by technology every 11 minutes. And it takes 20 minutes to focus your mind back on the work that you were doing before you were distracted. Edison was one of the greatest geniuses of humanity. You know one of Edison's key protocols? His Menlo Park. Edison's Menlo Park. He had this place where he and his small band of workers would go to, and they would get away from the world, and there was no distractions, no interruptions. And by doing that, he allowed the natural power of his brain to focus on ideas that change the world. Here's the thing. when you get away from distraction, when you start to focus on that one piece of work that you want to take to world class, your neocortex, which is the seat of reasoning, starts to shut down. You see, because you never do your best work from the intellect, you do it from a deeper place. Your neocortex starts to shut down and your brain waves shift from beta to alpha. Every day when you're at work doing distractions, being interrupted, living the daily life, your brain is in beta. But if you look at geniuses, they're operating at alpha waves. Once your brain shifts from beta to alpha, a pharmacy of mastery is created. Cortisol, which is the fear hormone, starts to reduce. A lot of us are in fear every day. We don't even know it. That's why we don't take risks. That's why we don't push the envelope. That's why we don't innovate. That's why we're afraid to be ourselves. Cortisol. When you're away from distraction, cortisol comes down. Dopamine, the inspirational neurotransmitter, is released. And serotonin is released. And a pharmacy of mastery is actually created in your brain when you go into that quiet space to do very focused, concentrated work. Mihai Csikszentmihalyi of University of Chicago calls this the flow state. Every single one of us can create flow in our work. And when you get into flow, that's when the athletes do otherworldly things. That's when the great painters create these masterpieces. That's when the great leaders do world-class work.
How do you stay focused? Answering this question is perhaps the most important, critical thing you will ever do in your lifetime, period. Focus is driving everything in your life. You got to get it back. So how are you going to get your focus back? Well, let me give you some counterintuitive ways to do it. The first thing that I need you to know in order to get your focus back is to realize that you need to make fewer decisions. Why? Well, as we know from neuroscience and we know from productivity studies, that the more decisions that we actually make, the more our brain becomes fatigued, right? The more decisions that we make, the more we utilize the glucose that's really fueling our willpower, that's fueling, frankly, our ability to make more decisions and higher quality decisions. Matter of fact, the more decisions that you tend to make, the less effective you're going to be over the long term, because you're going to utilize your ability and your resources and your brain's power, literally your willpower, will go out the window. So you want to minimize the number of decisions you are making. How do you do that? One, stop browsing. You know, I know maybe you found me because you were browsing somewhere, and I hope you make me part of your focus on your personal development. But I can tell you, overall, browsing completely wipes out your focus and your willpower. All those tweets that you're reading, all those news feeds that you're reading, guess what? Every time you look at them, guess what your mind has to do? It has to make a decision, pay attention or not pay attention. And that decision is costing you focal power and resources later on, even if you don't know it. If you're looking for something, search for that one thing, find it, you're out. Do them intentional. Stop swiping all the apps and all the pictures. Do the things that are going to move you forward. Well, what should those things be? That leads us to point number 2 here, which is you must define your mission. You need to have a mission for what you're doing today. What happens, most people just kind of show up and they go, okay, well, I guess I'll do some stuff, but they have no intention whatsoever, so they end up doing too many things that mean nothing towards their mission. Getting very clear on the mission, and working the plan. Everything else, guess what it gets? A no. Until you reach that mission or until you're significantly on your way, that you have free resources to be able to focus elsewhere. And people often have never defined their mission. And if you don't have one right now for this day, if you didn't have a drive, a mission, a written down statement about what you were going to accomplish today, a checklist, a goal sheet, a time management tool that you filled out today, and you're just showing up today and going, well, I guess I'll see what my inbox tells me to do today. And you just respond to everybody else's desires and everyone else's emails, and you're just always in reaction, always responding to everybody. No proactivity towards a mission that you defined yourself, you'll be lost. You'll find that because you never focused on that one thing or moving towards those several things that were your priority, that you're just lost. Here's another thing. Focus goes out the window when we don't have progress. Right? If we're not progressing towards something, our focus goes out the window. We just don't pay attention to anything. We don't feel good about ourselves. You want to get more focus in your life? Get more progress. As you progress more, you start to get excited. You start to pay attention to things that are working, that are moving you forward, and you start to find more focus in your life. Last idea. Once you have that mission, your job is to try this. I know it's going to be uncomfortable and you're going to hate the idea. And that is, I just want you to say no to everything immediately from now on. Always. Now, that goes against the grain of a lot of people say, well, no. Life is about saying yes. Well, yeah, a lot of people have said yes to everything, and that's why they're miserable. I want you to say no just at first, just so you can check it against your mission. I don't want you to say yes or commit to any projects immediately anymore. That's what people do. I do want you to commit, but just give yourself like a couple hour break or an evening's break. Make the decision the next day. Right? If something comes up and you can do it and you're excited about it and someone asks you to do something, I just say no first. It will teach you to say, no, I'm going to evaluate that first. I'm going to put some thought to this to see, should I focus on this right now in my life? Yes or no? And build some criteria for yourself. You know, if you think about the time, energy, resources, and effort and sanity that you're going to have to put into something, well, you should get something more out of it than you put in, right? You should be able to draw, some return on investment or future value out of it, or your own personal development or your improvement to your lifestyle from it. But if you're going to focus on something, make sure it's going to lead to some kind of result, even if just that result is your true passion, your true love, and your true spirit in it. Otherwise, it's got to get a no. And what this suggests is that we have to have a greater degree of evaluative time and evaluative criteria in our life if we're ever going to truly have focus, right? Most people, because they're just saying yes to everything, and they never filter something through criteria to say, yes, no, good for me, bad for me, right now, wrong now, because they have no criteria. They have no basis for making the decision. They've said yes to too many things. Their plate has become too full, and now there's too much to focus on, so they're not even moving forward. Your job is to get back to a very simple level of life, to very simple things to focus on, to do, to focus what we call essentialism or simplicity, to just make sure that you're only focusing on one or two major things at a time. And everything else, you're not allowing the distractions to suck you in, so you click all the links or do all the things that someone else says or reply to everybody else, but you're moving your life forward day by day, little by little. Engage in things that you care about, that you love, that you enjoy, saying no to those that you do not, and move towards every single day, moment by moment, day by day, to those things that truly engage you, to those things that truly energize you and bring enthusiasm into your life. And if you can keep that type of focal power and intention, then you'll start to experience what we call the charged life.